Good morning and welcome to Spa-Francorchamps for the inaugural running of the TCR SPA 500. It's a 500 lap race. We don't think we're going to do 500 laps, but we're certainly going to be racing through the night, and we're probably going to see the race finishing at 23 hours. It's an endurance race in the purest sense. It's all about TCR though. All of our 17 car field running to the TCR touring car specification. It's the first running of this ever of an event of this sort for the TCR category, a specification of formula of touring car racing car that is kind of taking over the world. And once again, we have to thank the Creventic race organisation for having the creativity to think about racing these cars over these long distances. TCR always been a part of, for the last few seasons, always been a part of the 24H series in both 12 hours and 24-hour races. But this one's all about the TCR class, and for that we've brought together the cream of TCR racing internationally. We'll have more detail of just who's in what car, but we've got some superstars from the world of World Touring Cars, European Touring Cars and WTCR. The weather is possibly the best track condition we've seen all weekend. We've got pretty much a dry track throughout this Spa-Francorchamps circuit, and that will give us a clear run to qualifying and a pure fight to see who's fastest and who's going to be on the pole position. We'll be going down into the pit lane very shortly to get a feel for what's happening down there in the pits, as we are just minutes away from the green flag and then the first competitive time session of the weekend, where we'll see our grid formed for this afternoon's race start. Our broadcast this afternoon for the race starts at 3:25. We're scheduled to see the cars off to begin the TCR SPA 500 at 4 p.m. That's local time here in Belgium. Let's head down to the pit lane, where our intrepid pit lane reporter, Dinah Binks. Di, are you all set for what's going to be, I think, one of the most exciting qualifying races of our season? It's very, very tight.
Pit lane before anyone else this morning. We've had a bit of a lack of track time, so we want to get ahead of the game, so it's great to see that they will be back out. Temperature down here is about 7 degrees, as you say, dry, but the tarmac here is still a little bit wet. I've had a look around at the various cars, can't see any problems in the garages at the moment, and I'm looking at the tyres to see what tyre choice they've gone for, whether it's slicks or wets, and the 85 VMAX Racing at the moment is on wets. As is the 33 Vimmerwerk Motorsport, but Lestrap Racing, they're debating what they do at the moment. They were discussing it as I was in the garage, whether to go for wets or slicks. So I think we've still got a few more minutes yet before decisions are made, although the 65 looks like that's on wets, and they've managed to get out first. So engines are being tuned up now, ready to get out for this qualifying session, and everyone's ready. They've been waiting for this, and they're happy to get behind the wheel and get out on track.
Thank you, Di. Keep us posted for any kind of situation, but it's not about the pit lane for this 30-minute session. And may I welcome my colleague to my left. Good morning, Paul. First time we're going to be competitive here. I say that, we've had some running, but it's been a non-competitive session, what we've seen so far. This one counts for something. I know it's only 30 minutes, but it's all about getting yourself high up on that grid to give you a good start to this afternoon's race.
Yes, it's quite surprising. There is a big queue of cars. We saw the car going past Diana a moment ago, because they're using the full endurance pit lane as well, so the combination of Formula One pit lane and the endurance pit lane, it's actually a very, very long pit lane with the refueling area to the right-hand side of the pit lane of the endurance pits as you go down the iconic pits of Spa-Francorchamps. That's where the refueling area is, on the right-hand side. But the cars who were on the left-hand lane were allowed out first. Green flag has now been waved. The session is underway.
Thanks, Paul. We get the session underway. I know you're not a betting man, but when you look at that driver lineup, Paul, and you see the likes of Vincent Rademacher, you see that the likes of Pepe Oriola in the 101, Vincent Rademacher in the number 8. It's a tough call, isn't it, as to see who's just going to be. I mean, there's Jaap van Lagen out in the 175. It's no surprise to me that a lot of these teams have put their TCR specialists at the wheel of their cars and their entries for this qualifying session.
The surprise to me, Joe, is that there was a big queue. With the conditions the way they are, it's horrible, it's damp, it's greasy. You can't possibly set the ultimate lap time at the moment. The ultimate lap time is going to be set on the last lap. I'm not a betting man, but I will predict that. That's when the track is going to be at its optimum, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see by the end of this session people going out on slicks once they've worked out where the grip is. So the initial parts of this session are going to be finding your way. So yes, certainly make sure the car's set up right and any tweaks you've done overnight work. But the quick laps, I'm pretty sure, are going to come towards the end of the session.
You've got less than 10 laps in this session, Paul. It's only a 30-minute session. That's not a lot of laps, and maybe the thinking is that we're going to go out straight away, put a banker in case we have any further issues with track conditions. It's something there, but I think I totally agree with you there. We haven't had any rain for a few hours now, and the track beginning to dry, but it's not dry in any way, shape or form. Let's have a pop down to the pits where I heard Di, what have you got?
The 54 didn't make it out first, but the further car has just left the garage and it's making its way out on track. So quite a lot of relief in that garage down there. They were waiting, they were just all desperate to get the car on track. So they fixed those issues and they're now out for that qualifying session.
That's great news. Just remind everybody that the number 54 Further Autosport by QSR Racing Audi RS3, that car did not do any running in night practice. An electrical problem, the worst problem to have in my book. Electrical gremlins causing that car problems yesterday and getting no running in night practice. The officials have given them special dispensation because night practice was about qualifying your drivers with an obligatory and mandatory 2 laps of night practice. They've been able to continue without that, and I think that's sensible. We don't want to lose an entry because of that, and great news that that car is up and running. And our good friend Chris de Jong, Paul, thought he might have had the weekend off. He hasn't, though. They've got the car fixed. He's engineering that number 54.
De Jonker,
sorry.
So that's the QSR run, but entered by Further Autosport car, number 54 car. So that car is out. This is a small field, make no bones about it, but I'm sure we're going to say it a number of times, small but perfectly formed. There's an awful lot of interest in there. You've already mentioned, Vincent Rademacher, Jaap van Lagen. The 101 car has 2 ringers in there. Pepe Oriola is one. Tom Coronel is the other ringer, and I would expect that car to be one of the later ones out, and I would expect Tom Coronel to put in a couple of laps, although I suspect that Oriola is... It's going to be a toss-up actually between Oriola and Rick Breukers as to who's the quickest there. It'll be quite interesting to see who is the quickest in the 101 Red Camels car. That is one of only 2 cars to yet go out onto the circuit. Anti-Brewery is another car to look out for, the number 131 Baz Kooten entry. This is Top Car Sport entry. And the other one, which is a bit of a dark horse because you don't know so much about it, the DG Sport Competition Peugeot 308. That has a very, very strong driver lineup, and you were saying earlier on, Joe, this is a race which is going to be all about the drivers because the cars are so closely matched. The driver lineup in that Peugeot, not necessarily household names, Aurélien Comte, Teddy Clairet and Julien Brichet. Only 3 drivers, that's the other thing about that car. 23-hour race with only 3 drivers, so they're going to have their work cut out. However, no driver time limits, so they can push as much as they want. But I think that Peugeot, we saw it in night practice yesterday, and in the free practice session. It was quick, and that Peugeot, I don't think we need to overlook it at all.
Absolutely, Paul. And just to mention also that we have got cars on their first flying lap, some cars peeling back into the pits on a bit of a cycling lap. but we've had quite a few cars gone through to start what will be their first flying lap. So time's about to come through. Let's pop down to the pits, Diana.
I'm with the Red Camel 101. The car, as you rightly said, is still in the garage now. They've had some problems with the rear subframe, so they're just having to realign the car. Rick Breukers is behind the wheel just waiting while they finish lining the car up. It looks like they've probably got another 5 minutes or so to go. But I'll keep you posted on that. But at the moment, still in the garage.
Thank you, Di. And that is one of the favourites for not just pole position, but overall race honours. They've got to be starting their pole.
Isn't that a slight worry? I mean, you know more about car setup than I do. I mean, the car was out in night practice, but now they've got an alignment issue on it. Remember, that's the car that Harry Hilders crashed in Barcelona. So I just wonder if that's a throwback from the accident, because they've rebuilt the car totally since Barcelona.
Well, it ran last night, and maybe just finishing touches on maybe some setup work.
Yeah,
that maybe want to try to. But if I'm disappointed I didn't see any camera of what they were actually doing there. But if they've got the car on the flatbed, and they're just finishing off the alignment, cambers, and toe in and out at the rear, it's a crucial setup on the rear of a front-wheel drive touring car is as crucial as it is on as anything, because it's all about how you get the rear end to act. And it looks to me we've now got insight into that 101 Red Camel's garage. There is a sense of urgency there just by the body language of the mechanics there. Diana is down there with them, and it does just like they're setting the toe on the they're setting the toe angle on the rear of the car. That's just final sort of setup issues on the 101. They're just, you know what, for me that tells me that that's a performance setup that they're going for with regards to qualifying. They may change that back for the race. Diana?
As you say, there is a sense of urgency, but there's not an over-urgency, if that makes sense. They're very much calm and going about their business to do it, but it's clearly taking a bit longer than they first thought.
Yeah, there's a difference between controlled urgency and panic, and I don't want to give any ideas or impression that there is panic there. There's not. Everybody's going about their business, but in a kind of a dynamic way, and understandably, because we're already... What's that, Paul? 22 minutes of the session. They have plenty of time, but that's going to sort of...
8 minutes in, though, but as you say, with only 10 minutes at your disposal, 10 laps at your disposal, you've got to make sure that the laps that you do count. So one hesitates to suggest that the Red Camels team might have had a lie-in this morning, but they perhaps should have been doing this earlier on.
I'll tell you what that probably says to me, having worked in that environment, having worked with race engineers. They sit there over their morning coffee, and the engineer will go, you know what, a little bit more toe out would possibly give us a little bit more, whatever they're trying to get, more grip, less grip, whatever. And then it'll be with 10 minutes to go to the session, the engineer will call, I want a setup change. And it'll be like, what do you mean? It'll take us 15, 20 minutes to do that. Well, I want that setup change. That looks to me what that is. It's a performance setup change to just get a little bit more performance out of the handling of the car.
We remember yesterday evening to the night practice session. Jaap van Lagen set the fastest lap in night practice, got out the car, told Diana that there was plenty more to come. The car was very unbalanced. He wasn't really happy with it at all. Well, whatever they've done at Bas Kooten seems to have done the trick, because Jaap van Lagen in the 175 breakdown vehicle, the yellow Peril, yellow and black with various telephone numbers that you can call if you break down out on the circuit. Jaap van Lagen's done the quickest lap so far, 2 minutes 43.987. That's the best lap of the session so far. Second fastest, and this is the time that's only just been set, Rory Penttinen. He's done a 2 minutes 44.498. And then third fastest, the number 85 car, Charles Espenlaub, out in the VMAX Racing Opel Astra, and he's done a 246.348. So all of those times quicker than were set in the night practice session, and indeed all of them. No, not quite all of them. Certainly the first two are quicker than we even got in free practice yesterday. Now, again, we just need to make sure whether those are on slicks or on wets. Certainly from what Di was telling us, most people seem to be going out on wets. But I have to say that within the next, well, yeah, we're 10 minutes into a half-hour session. Well, we'll see what happens. I think that slicks is the way to go, but that's just me. I'm not out there. On slicks or on Diana, tell us.
Diana,
101.
101 with Rick Breukers on slicks is now leaving the garage, making its way out onto the track.
Excellent. Okay, so
that may be, you know, the run. It's a massive compromise, and for me, this is going to be the key to the whole race by tomorrow afternoon. It's being on the right tyres in the right conditions. And it may have been a setup change on that car just to give those rear slick tyres a bit more bite, maybe a bit more toe in, to give the car a bit more bite in the rear end, get the rear tyres up to temperature. It's definitely a performance change for the 101, so stand back. We expect optimum performance from Rick Breukers out in the 101.
Yes, the answer to the question, do you use Tom Coronel, do you use Pepe Oriola, or do you use Rick Breukers? Rick is the one who is most familiar with the car and is the most likely, I would suggest, to get a good banker lap in, even if the change that they've done doesn't quite work, because Rick will be able to drive around the problem. We saw a moment there out on the circuit, the number 54 QSR car about which we were talking at the beginning, had its electrical problems yesterday. John Miller is at the wheel and pushing on to great effect, not quite knowing his way through Eau Rouge though, and having to take to the escape road as he went up there. John is currently sixth fastest overall. 2 minutes 50.571 is his best lap time so far.
Rear end of that number 175 through Eau Rouge and up the hill towards Radion. Just a little bit of oversteer there, but very well controlled by Jaap van Lagen. Just a more rotation than oversteer, and certainly that's how he wants the car to handle the rear end, coming round and just changing direction for the car. I mean, some people that I've worked with have always said that the rear wheels on a front wheel drive car are just to keep the exhaust from scraping along the ground, but key to getting the car balanced and performing well. You don't want to have the front tyres doing all of the steering work. You want that rear end to be slightly loose, and we certainly saw that on the number 175 Van Lagen car. 54 into the pit stop.
54's come into the pit lane, no driver change that I can see, but they've taken the wet tyres off and they're now putting slick tyres onto the car.
So the 54 car there with John Miller, the American, in the car. He's gone for slicks, having a bit of a recce on wets, and those wets are being well used on this damp but drying track. Certainly the pit straight there, Paul, looks completely dry. It's only out at the back of the track that we've got the track surface remaining still damp.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with the slicks is going to be getting them up to working temperature. Di told us what temperature it was. I think she said 8 degrees.
That's cold, isn't it?
And so
cold weather.
It's going to take a bit of energy into the car to get things going. Jaap van Lagen is getting things going. He's still going very well indeed in the 175 Bas Kooten car, now down to a 242.757 for Jaap. Rory Penttinen 244.498 is 1.7 seconds behind. And then the Lestrup Racing VW Golf, Marcus Fluch is in car number 110. 110, he's up to a 245.516 to be third fastest. So fascinating. I talked about the class situation, that the top 6 cars, none of them are pros. The first pro class car is only down in 7th place.
That's what we expected, Paul. The first pro car down in 7th place, car 131, with Antti Burri at the wheel. He is a hot shot, let's say, Finnish driver. Great to see the number 9, the GDL Team Australia car, doing well. Car number 9, currently in 2nd place, only 0.3 of a second behind off that pole position. But I see their tactical ploy for qualifying was to put the only Finnish driver they've got. They're all Antipodeans, 3 drivers from Australia, 1 Kiwi and a Finnish driver, and Rory Penttinen is the driver that they put in the car. Ideal for these conditions when you've got a Finn on the books.
Yes, quite. Rory Penttinen at one point was quickest yesterday in night practice. Of course, having the Finn in the one element in addition to what we've been talking about with the Pro and the AM classes.
You've got Kiwi as well. That would have spoiled the thing as well.
You did mention the New Zealander, but the point being that to have a Nations Cup entry, you do need to have all of your driver lineup from the same nation, and they are rewarded for doing that by having a big flag which will be on the roof of the car, which we'll be able to see as they go past.
I think we'll talk about that more when we get into the race, Paul. We'll talk about the various, being a Creventic organised race. We have lots of trophies and lots of podiums, and slick tyres was the call on the 101 car, and Rick Breukers trying to optimise his exit out of the bus stop to start his first flying lap. That rear end just cried no more, and around the car went. He's done a pretty harmless 360 spin. I say harmless, it wouldn't have been that if you were one of the cars following, because the car was fully broadside at 90 degrees to the direction of travel. He's gotten that car underway, but that will have spoiled that first fast run it's into the start of the lap.
It will have spoiled both of them, because he will have the lap that he was completing was slow because he was in the middle of a spin, and because he wasn't up to speed when he crossed the start-finish line, that will ruin the lap that he's on now as well. So he'd have to go around and then try and get another lap in with which is going to be his improvement. He's also getting held up a little bit by the traffic there. The Leicester Racing Golf not exactly getting in his way, but I think Rick fancied his chances of going past on the Kemmel Straight and then realised that it wasn't going to work for him and it wasn't going to happen. So he had to kind of back off. Now he goes past as they go down to the long right-hander at Rivage.
And we're already halfway through, we're beyond halfway through this qualifying session. So time does get soaked up very quickly indeed here at Spa. It's just under a 3-minute lap. 2 minutes 41 is the current fastest time. So almost a 3-minute lap is easily soaked up. Let's pop down to Diana Binkstein. What have you got?
The NKPP Racing 175 by Bascoton Racing car has come in for, again, change of tyres, been out on wets. Now the team are putting slicks onto the car. No driver change is expected. Pretty slick pit stop so far. These guys know what they're doing. They're taking their time, doing a couple of last-minute checks, but all looking good down here.
And no change of driver there.
No change of driver, no.
Jaap van Laken staying in the car. Interestingly, Paul, that's the provisional pole sitting time, 2 minutes 41.4 on wet tyres on that number 175. So that was the correct call at this stage of track conditions.
Well, yes, I mean, we'll see whether or not he's going to be quicker. I'm surprised, actually, that Rick's struggling as much as he is in the 101 Red Camel Cupra, because I kind of expected Rick to have put in a quick lap by now. Currently, he's still last, but he's coming up towards the bus stop chicane now. But again, this is not going to be a massively improved time for Rick, because remember, the start of the lap was compromised because he was spinning all over the curbs coming out of the bus stop. He comes across the line now, and the time that he sets comes up as a 2 minutes 52.296. This is going to be the one that has to count, though, for Rick. And he's judged it pretty well, I reckon, Joe. He's got a clear track ahead of him.
Absolutely, Paul. That bank of time has only put him in 14th place, and that was because the lap time was compromised massively with that spin coming out of the final corner of the course. He's down the hill now through Eau Rouge. He climbs the hill. The car looking very, very stable indeed as he crests the rise at Radillon. He's got maximum speed, momentum onto the Kemmel Straight. This is where the rear tyres begin to cool. They're on that straight. The water, the surface water, hasn't been removed as effectively as maybe through the corners. He brakes for Lecombe, and the car looking very, very stable indeed. But it's a bit of a tippy toe through the right-hander and then the left-hander of Lecombe. He's got the right-hander to go, and then down towards the 180-degree double apex hairpin at Bruxelles. And it looks like we've got a dry line, but you've got to look very hard for the dry line there, and he clips the double apex now through Speaker's Corner. The left-hander plunging downhill, continuing downhill to double gauche, Pouon, as it was used to be called. It's now called double gauche, double left. And this is daunting in these conditions. Will the rear end of the car stick? He turns in, he's flicking the steering wheel, just feeling the grip. He's through the first part, he's through the second part, hugs the curb on the left, lets the car breathe out to the curb on the right, doesn't go anywhere near those curbs. Those curbs retain water. He's down towards Fan, and he's through the first part, just misses the apex slightly, tucks the car in further to the right. Now he's through the left-hander, out onto the extremes of the track again, staying well off the curbs, into Campus, through the right-hander. He uses the curb on the inside, stays off the curb on the exit, and through the all-important curb, Paul Frere. This will be crucial to the lap time, as it's a big, massive, flat-out run through the sweeping left-hand corners of Blanchimont. They're more sweeps than corners, but they are crucial to a quick lap time here at Spa. He's through the final left-hander at Blanchimont. Now the run up the hill back towards the pits. He's got the absolute nightmare of the bus stop chicane. It's almost stop and park the car. Turn right, clips the apex on the right. The car flicks to the left, hits the apex, hits the curb on the inside of the left. Now here's the lap completed. What's it going to be? I'm going to throw it to you, Paul, to update us on the lap time.
Well, it's better. He's done a 2 minutes 47.782, but it's only good enough for 8th fastest. So I think that probably suggests that Jaap van Lagen on wets has got a better combination than the combination of Rick Breukers and Slicks, but we'll see what Jaap van Lagen's now able to do, because Di told us that the Dutchman in the NKPP yellow car from Bas Cupra, the Cupra from Bas Cooten, has gone on to slick tyres as well. He's now just completed his out lap and has gone through to start his first flying lap on the slick tyres.
Yeah, you know what? It's easy in hindsight now, with only 8 minutes to go, that we've got an idea of what the choice of tyres are. And a big off for the 852. That's the Teamwork Huff Motorsport Audi going off at Le Combe. He just pushed it a little bit too much into the braking area. Who's at the wheel of the 852? Sonny Wong Yat-Ching at the wheel, locks up going into the braking area. Initial brake. All front wheels of the car locked up, and then he was a bit of a passenger, and I did think he made contact with the barrier there, Paul.
He did indeed, yes. He gave it a fairly hefty smack, and he's finished way off the track up at Les Combes, and so he's not in the way anymore. But we've got a new fastest lap, because Julien Brichet, Joe, is now quickest.
It's the Peugeot car 308. He's gone round, not sure what tyres he's on, but a 2 minutes 40.8. He goes almost 7/10 of a lap quicker, and he could even be quicker here, Paul, because he's gotten a lovely toe off the number 8 Audi. Going into the braking area of Le Combe, he's gained a lot of time on that Kemmel straight, and the car looks absolutely gorgeous through Le Combe. The steering wheel being able to be used effectively, and no sort of flicking from left to right, trying to gather grip through the front wheels. That car is handling perfectly.
Yeah, it was a 45.6 Sector 1 time for Julien Brichet there. It's not as quick as he went when he was setting that fast lap of 2 minutes 40. So, yes, he got a toe, but I just wonder if his speed through Radyon was just compromised a little bit, knowing that there was a car up ahead of him. But that certainly has laid down the marker. So it's the Julien Brichet Peugeot fastest. Jaap van Lagen on a time set on wet tyres, second fastest at the moment, but Jaap coming towards the end of his first flying lap on slicks now in car number 175. Rory Penttinen is still there in third place. He's now onto slick tyres on his way. And this order that we're giving you, I think, Joe, in about 5 minutes' time when the session ends, is going to be completely changed, because track conditions improving all the time, and more cars going onto slick tyres. And of course, lapping on the slick tyres is getting more temperature into those tyres and making them work better.
Considering we've already had 2 support races here at this meeting at Spa, I'm surprised to see not more of a dry line being formed by cars running on it. And we've certainly got a distinct faint, the faintest of dry lines appearing, and that's when you start airing towards slick tyres. Jaap van Lagen has gone back to the top of the screens, Paul. So slick tyres are now the order of the day. 2 minutes 40.628. He's gone just under 2/10 quicker than Julian Briche in the Peugeot.
But the margins are tiny. You know, yes, slicks are the way to go, but it's not as clear cut that says, you know, you're 2 seconds a lap, 3 seconds a lap. Normally, you know, you switch to slicks and immediately, you know, you're 2 seconds quicker. You know, we're talking about some very small margins here. Jaap van Lagen coming up behind the Teamwork Huff Motorsport car there. Riney Hay is at the wheel. He's not one of the quicker drivers and moves out of the way of Jaap, but again, possibility that Jaap was just hindered a little bit when they got to Les Combes there. And just a thought in passing, we did see the barrier take a bit of a bash there. I just wonder whether they're going to have to replace that between qualifying and the race. Julian Briche, meanwhile, with the Peugeot, back into the pit lane. We've got 4 minutes of the session remaining. It's going to make it very tight for him to get out before the end of the session and still do a warm-up lap.
I'll be amazed if anyone really does try to get, you know, maybe put some more tyres, new tyres. You're going to have to bring those tyres, and more importantly, the rear tyres are going to take at least 5 laps, 3 to 5 laps to be optimised. We haven't got time, even in a 30-minute session, to really do that. So we are seeing a voyage of discovery pretty much on every lap for these drivers, and it's Jaap van Lagen's courage. I put it down to courage, Paul. That's why we're only seeing marginal gains and not chunks of time because of being on the right tyre. We're seeing marginal gains, and I think that's more down to driver than anything.
Rick Breukers is struggling still with the 101 car. I just wonder whether that change hasn't quite worked for him. Rick, having gone through there, he's quick, but not very quick. Jaap van Lagen is very quick, but not as quick as Charles Espenlaub. The number 85 VMAX Opel Astra, Joe, goes to the top.
Yeah, you called it, Paul. You said this is going to look nothing like the timing screen, what we're going to see when we see a checkered flag. And this is where we're going to earn our crust, by noticing who's at the top. Charles Espenlaub with an outstanding lap, 2 minutes 40.606. He's only 0.022 of a second on the pole position though, and that is changeable. And as I say that, go on, Paul.
Jaap van Lagen back to the top, and now he is beginning to throw it out of the park. 2.6 seconds quicker than anybody else. 2 minutes 37.916. Now, an optimum dry time here with a TCR car would be a 2 minutes 35. Pole position for the TCR race here back in April was Rick Breukers, 2 minutes 32. So it's not bone dry, but a 2:37 is a lot closer to what you would expect as a full dry time. So a 2:37.916 for Jaap van Lagen puts him top of the list. For the moment, at least. Antti Buuri moves up to third place now in the 131 Bas Kooten car. He's done a 2 minutes 40.792. And Marcus Fluch with the Lestrup VW, the Golf, has done a 2 minutes 40.822. He moves up to be fifth and the leading AM class car.
And Rick Breukers is in 7th. He's put a personal best Sector 1. He's still 2/10. Sorry, he's almost 3 to 4 tenths off that Sector 1 time of Jaap van Lagen. And Rick Breukers there still. I'm just waiting for his second sector time to come through. He's going to improve his time, I think, Paul, unless he really gets messed up by someone.
Problem Rick's got at the moment is that he's got a whole load of traffic to get past, and that he's going to have to go past that traffic before the end of the lap, and that's going to prevent him from improving. He'll get one more lap in before the end of the session. He's just coming now through Blanchimont,
and he goes personal best in Sector 2. Still not as quick as the cars ahead of him though, Paul. He will improve his time, but whether he improves his grid position remains to be seen. I'm not really sure. I'm not confident that he's going to do that.
No, we've got Charles Espenlaub still out, going very rapidly indeed in the Vauxhall, the Vauxhall Astra, just coming through the bus stop at the moment. He was purple in Sector 2. That's the longest sector of the 3 sectors here at Spa. Across he goes, second fastest for Charles Espenlaub, 2:39.761. He hasn't quite got the same pace as the Cupra of Jaap van Lagen, but Charles Espenlaub then in the called it a Vauxhall Astra. It's an Opel
I know.
Astra.
Everyone
sorry.
in Europe's not hasn't a clue what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Vauxhall,
it's an Opel Astra.
Yeah.
But it looks like a Vauxhall Astra. So Espenlaub goes second. The checkered flag is out, so the first person to take it was Jaap van Lagen. Is that an omen, I wonder? He didn't improve on his last lap. It was a 2 minutes 38 his last lap, so his best remains a 2 minutes 37.916. Rory Penton now goes second, crossing the line, taking the checkered flag. He lays down the second place marker, but is anybody going to be able to knock him off that front row before the end of the race? There's still 15 cars out there to take the checkered flag, Joe.
Yeah, and Rick Breukers in the 101 looks on as he continues on what will be his final fast lap. We'll keep an eye on the timing screens. Vincent Rademacher takes the checkered flag. He stays in fourth at the moment. Of course, anything can change. The 101 Rick Breukers car, the Red Camels Jordan Cupra, just going through Speaker's Corner now and plunging down the hill towards Double Gauche. The sweeping, daunting left-hander, Double Apex takes the first. He's really scrabbling for grip there, using the curb on the left, swings the car back to the left-hand side of the track now, using the curb again on the right, heading down towards Fan, which is the sweeping right, followed immediately by that left-hander. All important for the run down towards campus. He has got a car ahead of him, and we're still waiting for Charles Espenlaub, who's still on his fastest lap, also in the number 85. Waiting for Charles to take the flag. He could improve, but he's sector one time, not showing green, and his second sector for the number 85 car, the Opel Astra, showing white. That means that means indeed Charles Espenlaub is not going to improve his lap time, and hence not going to improve his grid position. We're still looking towards car 131, Antti Burri, and car 101, Rick Breukers. Antti Burri goes through sector 2 as faster than he's done all morning, as has Rick Breukers.
Antti Burri then improving right at the end there with a 2 minutes 40.737, but that leaves him only in 7th place.
Rick Breukers has gone to second, Paul. Car 101 just crossing the line there while he was speaking. 2 minutes 39.038. He's still 1.1 seconds off pole position, but he's put the Red Camels Jordan Cupra onto the front row for this afternoon's race start.
Yeah, excellent performance then from Rick there, and so he finishes, as Joe says, the Red Camel Jordans.nl, making it not only a Cupra 1-2, but also a Dutch 1-2, because the NKPP team and the Red Camel team, both Dutch teams. 2:37.916 was the time for Jaap van Lagen, 2:39.038 for Rick Breukers, and that pushes the Audi, the Australian Audi, with Rory Penton at the wheel, back to the second row of the grid, 2:39.664, and then Charles Espenlaub, as Joe was saying, unable to improve at the end there with the Astra, 2 minutes 39.761, but just 2 seconds separating those first 2 rows of the grid.
So a fantastic lap from Jaap van Lagen in that distinctive liveried 175, the NKPP Racing with Bas Kuiten Racing Cupra on the pole position by a huge margin of 1.1 seconds. I say that sarcastically. Red Camels Jordan right at the very end there. Rick Breukers qualifying that car on the front row alongside. He will start the race on the second place on the grid in the 101. GDL Team Australia, great to see their car on the second row in third place. First of the AM runners. VMAX Engineering, the Opel Astra, Charles Espenlaub, outstanding lap from him, puts that car in fourth place. SE Motorsports Audi, that car will start fifth. Sixth will be the Wimmermerk Motorsport car 33, the Cupra TCR starting sixth there. Seventh, Top Car Sport with Bas Kuiten, car 131. Eighth, the DG Competition Peugeot. It was on the provisional pole earlier in the session. It will finally start the race this afternoon in 8th place. The Lestrop Racing Volkswagen Golf car 110 will start 9th, and then rounding off the top 10 will be the Burton Racing Peugeot car 46. 11th place will see the Home Guard Motorsport Car 2, the family-run team, the Volkswagen Golf, will start 11th. Rounding off row 6, the Macau PS Racing Audi Car 853. In 13th, after all those niggly problems last night, stopped them running, getting no running whatsoever, they've managed to qualify the Further Autosport by QSR Racing Audi Car 54 in 13th spot. First of the Teamwork Hoof Motorsport Audi's Car 22 is in 14th. Second of the Teamwork Hoof Motorsport Audi's Car 852. Starting on the grid 15th, finishing qualifying into the barriers at Le Combe. That car will be recovered soon, I would think. 16th place, final row of the grid, Vipa Nisa Racing's Cupra Car 65, and rounding off the 17-car field is the Bascooten Racing Car 125 Audi. Let's head down to the pits and Di Binks. I'm hoping, Di, you've managed to find the team that will start this race at the front end.
I'm in Parc Fermé, but we've lost our pole sitter.
Where's he gone?
Disappeared, and you're cutting in and out, just so that you know. But I'm just trying to find Jaap here in the Parc Fermé. We came running up here because it had changed, and
that's why you're out of breath.
So I haven't got him here, I'm afraid.
Is there a bright yellow car there? You can't miss it, really, can you? That livery, bright yellow. Not managing to find our pole-sitting driver, Jaap van Lagen, to get a bit of insight. I think it came down to that tyre change, didn't it, Paul? He timed it well. He was on the provisional pole on wet tyres, but you know what, with a driver of his experience and capabilities, he knew just when to go for those slicks, and it did pay off.
Well, he was pushing all the time. I think that was the key thing, and as you said, it was getting the temperature into the tyres by pushing all the time. That enabled him to do it. It'll be interesting to hear from Rick Breukers, if we get the opportunity, to know whether he was happy with the setting of the car or not, because it did strike me that the car was just not quite as stable on its slicks as the Jaap van Lagen was, and Rick didn't actually drive it. He did drive it quite a bit last night in night practice, but I think Jaap probably did more laps. The key thing as far as the race is going to be, though, is that 175 car, the NKPP car, is a Pro-Am category car. So Guy Specimen and Harry Hilders won't be as quick, I'm afraid, as Christian Frankenhout and Jaap van Lagen, whereas the Rick Breukers car with Tom Coronel and Pepe Oriola is going to be a very, and Ivo Breukers, of course, is going to be a very strong contender indeed when it comes to the full length of the race. 23 hours, the race distance, or 500 laps, as Joe Bradley was saying earlier on. But that is going to turn into 23 hours. Nobody really expecting us to get as far as the full 500 laps. So we'll be down to 23 hours. And there is, as I thought there might be, but some fairly quick barrier repair work going on up at Les Combes following the accident there for Sonny Wong when he hit the barrier in the 852 car with the Huff Motorsport car.
Looking at the work that's going on there, Paul, he really did clobber it, didn't he? You know, I'm wondering if the car's going to be all right. It didn't look too out of alignment.
Well, yeah,
but it's gonna be out of alignment, no question.
Yeah, although the good thing is with metal barriers, they do give a little bit, and of course every deformation of the barrier is saving a little bit of damage to the car, perhaps. But so Huff Motorsport will have some work to do on that car. So the Huff Motorsport team then with work to do, and the car finishing up 15th in qualifying, ahead of the 65 Viper Nisa racing car, the Malaysian entry, and the other car, the 125 car, the other car from Bascooten, which finishes in last place overall on the grid.
So we, all of our drivers, Paul, have disappeared and disappeared into thin air. So Di has unfortunately just been finding the garages empty also. So we will get an opportunity to speak to Jaap van Lagen, no doubt, on the grid, and that'll give us we can ask him about his time and how the lap came. But it bodes well for this afternoon's race, Paul. I think, being at Spa in October, you know, I always knew that it was going to be a race of weather conditions. It's going to be all about being on the right tyres at the right time for the right conditions, and there's going to be an element of luck and chance, I think, in there.
That's right, yes. And the conditions of dry, wet. I suspect it's going to be dry for the first part of the race and wet for the second.
So a very entertaining qualifying session there for us, and as we thought, ultra competitive going right to the very end. That was more down to the weather than anything. The weather catching out a few people on the wrong tyres at the wrong time, and wet tyres initially were the order of the day. The early runners that experimented with slicks were caught out massively, and some more massively than others. The 852, for instance, smacking that barrier with the full left-hand side of the car. That will need some pretty intensive work doing to get that car race ready for a race start, which will be at 4 p.m. Belgian time this afternoon. We'll be back with you at 3:25. We've got Dinah Binks that will be on the grid with our runners, giving you a look at our grid for me, and we'll be with you live in sound and vision for the first 5 hours of the race. The pole position time, though, was all down to Jaap van Lagen in the number 175. Rick Breukers in the 101. The Red Camels Cupra did chase him down, and it fastest lap for him was right at the very end. But qualifying and indeed pole position is all about that bright yellow and black liveried car, and it's a distinctive livery. And if you're intrigued as to why the Bascuten team have made their car all yellow and black, we'll be bringing the answer to those questions in our race coverage. And it's quite a bit of a story, and it's quite entertaining. So we'll see you back on air live in sound and vision at 3:25 this afternoon. A big thanks to Dinah Binks and a big thanks to Paul Truswell. My name's Joe Bradley. We'll be back with you this afternoon for the TCR SPA 500. Hang on to your hats, it's going to be a wild one.
Welcome to the endurance racing series for GT and touring cars, with the champion of the continents, European Championship, TCR SPA 500 and TCR Middle East. That's 12 races across 3 continents. The best endurance racing experience for everyone. Welcome to the world of endurance. This is endurance.